the performance and tune car in 25 years' time. It may be electric, it may be hydrogen, it may even still have an internal combustion engine but powered by renewable fuels. So let's imagine we're at the 2045 performance and tuning car show. What do you think we'll have on display? What will you be showing?
I think Maha will still be displaying chassis dynamometers. They may change a little bit. We're working with the vehicle manufacturers at the moment on what they want for development of the EVs and with the hybrid cars. That will filter down to the tuners because there will still be some scope for tinkering, as there always is. I mean, when we looked at the tuning industry in the late 1980s, as fuel injection was becoming mainstream, not just on the race cars, everyone thought, we're dead, we can't mess around with these things anymore because we can't change jets or needles. There is a little bit of negativity and doubt about where we're going with electric cars, but I firmly believe that people still want to mess around with the electric cars and with the hybrids and with the hydrogen fuel cell stuff to get more performance out of them within the realms of the speed limits and everything else. So there will be, I think, a bit of a split in the industry or a deeper split with the tuning side on the road cars and with the race cars, because what is currently new to us is the next generation's historic race cars. So I don't think that's all doom and gloom at all.
I mean, I think the Performance and Car Tuning Show of 2045 is going to be, arguably a split between the contemporary cars of the day, which I'm almost certain will be electric or alternative fueled of some description. But the type of modifications I imagine will be there will be mostly aesthetic. It might be to do with the stance or the exterior finish or the interior. Some of the in-car tech might change, specifically about how we link up to other technologies, whether it's our phones or other devices. But I think because we're already seeing that split between modern and retro now, I think that will continue in 2045. So it might be that we'll have the contemporary stuff, whether it's low-slung modified electric vehicles, but we'll also have a performance car from 2020 that has now been sort of engineered with different suspension or different brakes and exhaust and induction filters and things like that. So we'll have hopefully a celebration of all motoring. I know at our tracks event we've tried to celebrate sometimes the evolution of car modification in a display called the Car Culture Collection, and with that we've had anything from, say, a Model A Ford from the 1920s right up to a modern day Nissan Skyline or something like that. So, and I think a show of 2045 will arguably celebrate that same lineage. It's just hard to know what the ratio of that's going to be versus new and old.
So there's a bright future for the tuning industry, but when we're tuning electric cars, that's a very different type of dynamic, different type of technology to what we know now. In the braking industry, we see how braking power can be used to regenerate a battery. What does that mean for you at Terox?
Yeah, we found that EV development is really positive for us. It gives EV cars at the moment are heavier, so they're asking more demands on the brakes, and we're using technologies to aid power from regeneration of heat generated by brakes, which is quite high because at the moment the cars are heavier. From a tuning point of view, in 25 years, I don't think we're going to be a million miles away from where we are now. On our stand at the Performance Car Tuning Show last year, we had a car that was 25 years old and a car that was present. We're hoping to do the same again this year, and I hope in 25 years' time we'll do the same. We hope that the tuning aftermarket is a subculture. It's a reflection of people's self. They buy a car, whether it's electric or whether it's combustion, it's an accessory of themselves. They modify it to be individual, and I think our industry celebrates individualism, and hopefully whether the car has an engine or a motor, people will look to improve the motor, they will look to improve the way the car handles, and they will look to make the car individual, make it individual to themselves, whether that's from wheels, colours, brakes, interiors. So hopefully the ethos and the heart of the industry won't change too much, but we'll just be looking back through a large generation of cars. In a way, we'll have 50 years worth of cars to modify rather than just 25 years of cars to modify. So yeah, things look good.
And a car, whether it's electric, hydrogen, hybrid, still needs to be dynamic and feel good to drive or to be a passenger in. So from a suspension or spring point of view, what do you see the future as?
I think, yeah, you're quite right. Irrespective of the method of propulsion, there's still a need to isolate the passenger from the road and control the body's motion and so on. So that doesn't present a challenge to us. There will still be a need, and there's still a human psychology that likes to tinker with vehicles, and certainly we can cater for that. There may be more of a shift towards, let's say, comfort if we're talking about an autonomous vehicle rather than dynamics. But that's just a case of changing our engineering brief. And if we do talk about autonomous vehicles, then for what we lose hopefully in customers who are now driving autonomous vehicles, hopefully if they are passionate, they will grow and move into the track day market, and hopefully we'll see that blossoming and populated by people who still want to have fun in their cars and still want to make steering and accelerative or decelerative inputs.
In your industry, Jonathan, how do you see that? Because you're in the business of bringing air into an internal combustion engine. So how do you see your stand in 2045?
Obviously, on the face of it, if the internal combustion engine more or less disappears, that's a problem for the straightforward air filter tuning business. As you said, there is likely to be a classic car market. There's likely to be a track day market. There may even be internal combustion engines running on alternative fuels. But it's not all, a downside. A fuel cell needs clean air to run on. It needs oxygen to catalyze with the hydrogen. And also a lot of these electrical devices need cooling, and you quite often need the air that's cooling them to be very clean, otherwise the cooling performance of the cooling devices deteriorates over time. So there may well be markets for air filtration that we haven't really envisaged yet. So I'm very hopeful that there's a strong future for the air filter industry and the tuning industry.
From Miltech's point of view, we look at it in kind of two ways. First of all, we've been around for 36 years and we're still producing exhaust today that we did when the company was founded originally. So our classic car business and the growth of that continues year on year very strongly. We're already seeing under the recent changes to emissions rules to cars, people are wanting to keep hold of their vehicles and own them longer. So this will only drive their desire to continue to modify and upgrade them over time. The second way we look at it is that we want to advance and move forward with the market, which is why we've invested in R&D and looked at ways that we can bring some of the elements of an exhaust, the soul and the sound and the experience that an exhaust gives to EVs with our sound generation technology. So this allows the likes of many of the EVs, and we've done this across vehicles such as Tesla's, the Jaguar I-Pace, and even recently an electric rally car that was based on a Renault Zoe that couldn't run in forest stages because it was too quiet. And we brought sound to that vehicle with the active sound technology that we've developed. So from our side, it will go in two ways. We will see growth in the retention and the classic car market, but also as vehicles become inherently quieter because they have no internal combustion, we'll be able to help bring back some of that soul and passion that can be lost on these vehicles. This is an example of our active sound technology. So this is based around a carbon fibre cone speaker that is low frequency to simulate the depth and tone that an exhaust would make. It also makes that sort of pushing of the air, so if you actually have the system running and place your hand over the end of what appears to be a tailpipe, but obviously there's nothing coming in other than the connector, you actually feel the air moving because of the design of it. We pair this with app control that allows the user of the vehicle to select different engine styles, so you can have everything from a 4-cylinder through to straight 5s up to V10s and V8s, and really sort of change the dynamic of a vehicle that inherently doesn't make sound. So this is applicable both now and in the future. So we offer this product across a number of ranges, from vehicles like diesel pickups that people want to give a bit more volume and a bit more passion to, and also on to full EVs now as well.
Another thing we see in the tuning industry is that the car enthusiasts will follow motorsport. Formula E is gaining fans like a snowball at the moment. I think at some point, as soon as there's some decent range in electric cars, that people will want to improve the suspension and brakes on the electric cars and take those on track too.
Can track days be exciting with electric cars or hybrid cars?
We'll see EVs and hybrids on track. Normally with motorsport, it seems to be the proving ground for developing systems and performance, and as we get into very much an sort of electrification era now, we can already see some very successful racing series. I don't think it will be very long before we see some of the more performance orientated EV cars coming to track. Very recently we've seen in the press manufacturers going head to head on certain circuits in Europe, trying to prove the track capabilities of EV cars. So yeah, I think it will happen, and I'm sure that the acceleration and the torque that these vehicles are able to deliver will be a thrill on track too.
So is 2045 only going to be about electric and hydrogen fuel cell?
I think that the performance industry, the tuning of cars, is going to survive through that and incorporate it, just as when cars changed from carburetors into injection, people started to say you're not going to be able to modify or tune a car because it has a complicated computer. My dad had a Mini, he changed the carburetor, he made it faster. I got a Mini, I plugged it into a computer and I made it faster. Maybe my son will be able to change the motors on his EV and make that faster. I think it's part of our life. If it's in your blood and you enjoy it, I think we can see that the industry started over 25 years ago and has gone through some massive changes. I think it will still be here in 25 years' time and still full of exciting new products.